Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners Postgame podcast powered by King. I'm here with Parker Thune. We got Brian Clinton. My name is Brandon Drum. Oklahoma 27-21 over Auburn in their very first SEC road game. The very first SEC win just so happened to be on the road. Michael Hawkins, KIP Lewis.
You're being very milquetoast with this intro.
I'm trying not to yell.
No, go ahead. Let it all out. That's what this podcast is for.
Okay.
We can express our feelings freely here. First off, folks, want to remind you that King is the greatest team to ever clean and a proud partner of OU athletics. From stadiums to any size business, King has solutions for you when it comes to commercial cleaning. Check them out at janiking.com, JANIKING.com. And of course, if you haven't already downloaded the Autograph app, go do so. link.ag.fan/boomer and promo code boomer is how you can get started. We drop exclusive content over there. Several other contributors and creators across the Oklahoma market do as well. But with that, fellas, there was a game today.
There was. Oklahoma won.
They did.
I think that's probably
they won the football game.
Yeah, I think people look at this game. First off, there's a lot of excitement. I can on our message board. Everybody's excited, I think, because there's some positivity now. After I guess after last Saturday against Tennessee, it was hard to find a lot of positives, right? Or just any positives outside of the defense. And now Michael Hawkins, he played decent during the 2 quarters he got in against Tennessee. He didn't play great the first 3 quarters, but he played well enough that he kept Oklahoma in the ballgame because he didn't make stupid mistakes. There were no turnovers by Oklahoma. And I think is that not one of the most underrated things about this whole day is how well a freshman went into one of the hardest places to play in all of the SEC, his very first start. And he threw the ball away instead of trying to force things and didn't turn the ball over. Did he make kind of a ridiculous intentional grounding? Okay.
It got offset. It doesn't matter.
But it got offset. But okay. My point is that if that's all you're going to get out of him as far as like negativity, you're going to win ball games.
You are. And we talked about it. We talked about it all week leading into this football game, Brandon. Michael Hawkins doesn't need to go be a superhero for Oklahoma.
No.
All he needs to do is keep the ball out of harm's way, and the defense is going to be able to make enough plays to put you in position to win. That's exactly what happened today, guys. And it was ugly. It wasn't what we imagined, but that's exactly what happened. Michael Hawkins kept the ball out of harm's way. The defense stepped up, especially in the closing stages of that football game. Over the last 10 minutes or so, we saw a completely different version of Oklahoma than we did for the first 50 minutes. And credit to the kid, man. When it was time to step up and make a throw, and you needed a big play to help shift the momentum of that football game, he stepped up in that pocket and delivered a dime for 60 yards to J.J. Hester to set up that touchdown from Javonte Barnes that ultimately, I think I don't know if that was the biggest play of the game, guys. It felt like the most pivotal. It felt like that was the moment where the entirety of Jordan-Hare Stadium started to get uncomfortable.
Yes. Yep. That's where the apprehension kind of sat in. Everybody, it was right after the Peyton Thorne back-to-back incompletions. I remember looking at you in the middle of the game and thinking, what is going on? Why is Auburn handling this way? And it kind of cracked the door open for Oklahoma, and Michael Hawkins on the very next drive settles in and hits a big throw to J.J. Hester. It was huge.
So I watched, before we got into all this, I watched a little bit of the SEC Unfiltered podcast where they just strictly covered the OU Auburn game. I watched this other Auburn podcast, and all of them, the part you're talking about where the, just losing, like Freeze was losing his mind, just losing his mind on Peyton Thorne because they were RPOs, but I guarantee you, in his headset was strictly said, "Hey, we're gonna call this RPO. This isn't really a run pass option. Hand the damn ball off." Oh, okay. Get up there. Safeties and linebackers collapse, and he goes, "Oh, I think I'm going to try to pass it. Incomplete pass."
Yeah. Clock stops.
Clock stop. And then again, they go in his headset. Hey, we told you on first down, don't throw the ball. These are not options.
Mhm.
Hand the ball off. And he's arguing with Hugh Freeze. They're like yelling, visibly yelling back and forth at each other. Did you see that, Parker? Where they were yelling back and forth at each other. And then finally, when Hugh Freeze calls timeout, he's already thrown his play set or the playbook sheets down on he's throwing his headset. He picks it back up, puts it over around his neck, and he is just ripping Peyton Thorne. Peyton Thorne walks the football. He's so scared he doesn't hand the football back to the official. He's still holding on to it in the huddle of the timeout.
And then what happened on the next play, Brandon?
He threw a pick six.
There you go.
He was totally discombobulated at that point. And I almost blame Hugh Freeze for that because he went nuclear on the kid.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, you
You
do that as a
should.
coach. You do that as a
should have.
coach. You expect your quarterback to respond accordingly. And I don't feel like Peyton Thorne probably necessarily had the same directive on that 3rd and 10. Don't throw the ball, no matter what, because you kind of have to throw the ball when it's 3rd and long in no man's land. But you knew at some point, we mentioned it in the rapid reaction, you knew at some point that Peyton Thorne was going to commit a turnover.
Yeah.
He was going to blink. He was going to make a mistake. And if you could capitalize on it, that could go a long way towards strengthening your stranglehold on this football game. And he made that mistake, that seemingly inevitable mistake at the most crucial juncture of the football game. And Oklahoma wasn't just able to turn it into an advantageous possession or advantageous field position. They used it to turn a deficit into a lead, just like that.
Yeah. Well, and what was interesting about kind of how it really started, it feels like the momentum really started to shift in Oklahoma's favor ever so slightly right before half when you there's a missed field goal attempt. Then they get a second try at it and miss it again.
Mm-hmm.
And then from then on, the first 4 or 5 penalties in the second half were on Auburn. And it kept Oklahoma's drive alive, or it backed Auburn up and kept them from really progressing. And you could just feel the anxiety in the stadium. The Auburn fans were like, "Oh my gosh, it's going to happen again." And then they go down and score. They build on their lead, and it felt as if maybe Auburn had figured some things out. But they just continued to get in their own way. And Oklahoma didn't take advantage of the opportunities right away, maybe as quickly as you would have hoped. But like Brent Venables said in his post-game press conference, when they needed it, when they absolutely had to have it, Oklahoma was incredible. They played very well. That last 5 to 10 minutes of that football game on the road, you can really build on that.
That was a team that showed a killer instinct today. If there's a positive takeaway aside from the play of Michael Hawkins, I think it's that defense showed a killer instinct.
Yeah.
On an individual level, none more so than our Mason Thomas, who again took over down the stretch for Oklahoma, as we saw him do against Tulane. But this defense as a whole proved that in crunch time, they're capable of clamping down and completely powering off an opposing offense.
Yeah.
That said, I took some flack in the YouTube comments. I was checking them out. I took some flack in the YouTube comments on the rapid reaction video because I said it didn't really feel like anybody deserved to win this football game. Not to downplay or to undermine what Oklahoma was able to do over the final several minutes of that game, but I'm thinking more in a larger picture here because when you look at the body of work in this football game, you look at some of the statistical discrepancies. Guys, if you didn't know any better, you'd think Auburn would have won this game handily.
Yes.
Yeah.
They outgained the Sooners by almost 200 yards offensively. They won the time of possession battle by over 10 minutes.
Yep. Substantial margin.
Oklahoma committed 10 penalties. They played sloppy football. Sloppy football for the vast majority of them. 11 first downs all day. 11 first downs for that Oklahoma offense. If you just looked at the body of work, top to bottom, start to finish, you would not, if you knew any better, or if you didn't know any better, excuse me, if you didn't know any better, you would not have walked away saying, yep, that's an Oklahoma team that played winning football today. But sometimes all that matters, fellas, is the most crucial spurt of the game and playing your best football down the stretch. And Oklahoma was able to keep it within striking distance such that they could flip that switch with 8 minutes left and go win, even though to that point, really the only saving grace of the day had been that 48-yard touchdown run by Michael Hawkins to kick off the football game.
The weird part is when Oklahoma goes down 21-10, there was a lot of people that were tweeting out within the beat. We're tweeting out, this game's over. This game's over. Hey, look, I want to go back. I'm gonna read y'all my tweet here in just a second, and it's pretty. I don't even know. I can't remember what I said, but I don't think I didn't write off Oklahoma completely.
Well, it felt at times like that was a larger deficit than 11 points. Like that deficit felt insurmountable there for a second.
The very wide-reaching feeling from the Oklahoma fan base, at least on Twitter, was this team can't score 14 points in a quarter right now. Like, this game is over.
Yeah, well, this team scored 14 points.
That was my tweet after the penalties.
Yeah, describe it for the folks.
So it's okay. So after all the penalties that Oklahoma, every time they would get moving the ball, they would move the ball. And then there would be just a sequence of just stupid like false starts or
same thing, also
block in the back, or it was just something stupid. So I tweeted out, anytime the Sooners started to get a drive going offensively, this is what happens. And it's a little boy with a little Nerf gun. He points it at his crotch and shoots it at the Nerf bullet, right? And it starts like dancing around and crying. But that's what it feels like. It's like that's a stupid thing to do to yourself, right? So those penalties are stupid. Self-inflicted stupidity is what that is. Well, and that's what it was. That's what it was all day long.
There was a lot of self-inflicted action from both teams.
Yeah.
Because you had a big play from Bauer Sharp get wiped out by an offensive pass interference call on Jake Roberts. You had a Michael Hawkins touchdown pass to Javonte Barnes get wiped out by an illegal motion penalty on Bauer Sharp.
Yep.
There were several other instances, and I neglected to mention the first time around, Auburn's kicker, Towns Magoo, missed 3 field goals.
I love it.
Yes, his name. I had to say his name. His name is Towns Magoo, which is hilarious.
It sounds like one of those 1930 like mafia member. Towns Magoo. Yeah. Did you not see him down there? Hey, he shot you.
Yeah. No, so Magooed it. Obviously, the first of those 3 missed field goals, all of which went wide left, which suggests that it's a mental issue.
Correct.
As it typically is for kickers that are missing the same way over and over. But the first one of those doesn't go down in the box score because the Sooners very nearly committed another costly infraction. They had 12 men on the field.
Yep.
Thankfully, Magoo lines up again with no time on the clock in the first half and hits it exactly where he hit it on the previous kick, wide left.
How is that? I still have been yet to have anybody answer this.
What's that?
When they sub in their special teams unit, and if they rush it in no huddle style, isn't the official supposed to stand over the ball until Oklahoma gets everybody that they sub in?
I thought so, but I'm not sure
until
that went that direction.
Yeah. It's almost like the refs were like, well, we're just going to let this mayhem play out and see what happens.
Yeah, well,
that's what it was chaos.
Yeah, I mean they had 12 men on the field, So,
But they did. But I mean, but they did because notoriously you're like hold the ball. It just felt like everybody kind of rushed in, rushed out. It was
very
still stupid.
curious. That
Yeah.
was some very curious clock management there.
By Auburn. Oh, it was awful. It was awful.
Very curious clock management.
And that is kind of a point that, I mean, obviously we're talking and analyzing Oklahoma on this podcast, but I think it needs to be said there were so many opportunities for Auburn to shut this football game down.
Yeah.
And it felt like at several turns, Hugh Freeze just completely whiffed on that.
I mean, if I'm an Auburn fan, I'm pissed.
Absolutely
tonight.
livid. Yeah, like I genuinely felt bad for Auburn fans when the tides turned. It was so gut-wrenching for them, and to look up in the stands and there's still 2 minutes left. Like there are still 2 minutes left in the game. The 2 minute 2 minute timeout, not warning, is happening, and there are just droves of Auburn fans walking out of the stadium. Just droves. And
Yeah. Well, they knew
like
it was
that,
about to
yeah,
happen.
right. And it's like we've been here. Yes, we've been here before.
They're
And
conditioned to understand, like, okay, this is not going to go
right.
the Auburn Tigers
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
And that was tough. But again, I just the question that I brought up on the car ride home and wanted to ask both of you here. I know the Texas game last year was a huge victory for Brent Venables. It was a staple victory, his best to this point. Given the context, given the situation today, top 5 wide receivers out, starting a freshman quarterback on the road, first SEC game on the road. There's all these different intangibles. Was this the biggest win of Brent Venables' career at Oklahoma thus far?
The answer is still OU Texas last year.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That you can make the case. There's a very real case to be made that this is number 2.
Yeah,
very much so. I don't think it's a question. It is number 2. Like, what would be the other game that would be number 2? Maybe BYU.
I guess, yeah, you got to
Bedlam
overcome the
in year
loss
one.
of your starting quarterback at halftime. Yeah, perhaps, but yeah, I mean, this is up there. This is because that building was
Nebraska
rocking.
on the road.
We're down by double digits in the fourth quarter.
6 and 7.
Yes, you're down your top 5 wide receivers. There was a lot that did not go in Oklahoma's favor today, and yet they found a way to get it done.
Yeah.
And they needed Auburn to kind of hand it to them. Like, both things can be true, right? Yes, Oklahoma went and closed this thing out, and they played their best football over the last 8-10 minutes to be able to walk out of there with a victory.
Yep.
But Auburn also handed it to them.
Correct. Yeah.
Very much so. Like you needed that team to give you a freebie or two, and they did.
And mind you, Peyton Thorne tried to do that the whole
He did.
game.
He was playing with fire.
He was playing with fire the whole game. The first 2 drives, how many tips almost got picked?
Yeah.
Was there like 3? Like right?
At least 2
At
or
least
3.
2 or 3. And then in the second half, I think there was the Billy Bowman almost picked. There was the Kobe McKenzie almost picked twice. And then finally, Kip Lewis. He was like, the odds were in Oklahoma's favor that at some point Peyton Thorne was going to play catch with one of their defenders. And it just happened to be in the most inopportune time for that guy. You've got to feel bad for him because he is one of the hardest, I guess, most pressurized quarterbacks in the SEC right now just because of everything that's happened. How many interceptions has he thrown this year? Right? Like it's been an amazing amount of interceptions.
Yeah.
So I don't.
And up until that interception, I mean, I think he finished with 338 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, against an Oklahoma defense that just
he played. I mean, all in all,
he played his best game of the year.
If he doesn't throw that pick, Auburn in all likelihood wins the football game, and Peyton Thorne's the toast of the town tonight.
And it's kind of a testament, like the way that we've seen over the last 2 weeks this Brent Venables team as a whole, but particularly the defensive unit. You see them consistently keeping the pressure down. Like the pressure stays consistent, and at some point the dam's going to break. Like that's kind of just what it feels like on the defensive side of the ball right now. That if they just keep the consistent pressure, the dam's going to break. Things are going to fall their way. And again, that happened. That happened tonight. We saw Oklahoma struggle for the first 3.5 quarters, and then that last 5 to 8 minutes of the game, it was all Sooners, and it all started with the defense. And that, to me, is just it just is a testament to what the identity of this team is at this point. I think they are comfortable with the fact that the defense is going to be the one that sets them up for victories. The offense is going to be is just going to have to be opportunistic and take advantage of those opportunities when they get them.
Can I say something?
Go for it.
I can't do it anymore with Kenai Walker. I'm out.
Same.
I'm out on 26. Like I
Tough
don't
day.
know how you can keep sending that guy out there.
Yeah.
Especially when Eli Bowen is playing quietly playing really good football out there at corner.
I would argue that he's been probably your best corner in the last 2 weeks. Like
I'd agree
when he's been out there.
I'd agree. Now, I don't know how much Woody Washington is going to play corner moving forward versus playing Cheetah, because it looked like he was kind of the Cheetah that Brent Venables wanted to rely upon in the absence of Kendall Dolby, more so than Sammy Omasigo. And I'm all for getting Sammy Omasigo on the field more, but I also understand Brent Venables sees those guys on the practice field every single day. He's going to know more about them than we do. And so if Woody Washington is your best option at Cheetah, that's fine.
Right.
But you got to get cornerback figured out in the meantime, because you're going to play some really good wide receivers down the stretch in the SEC.
Yeah,
some really good wide receivers.
Who's going to cover Ryan Williams?
I don't know who the hell is going to cover Ryan Williams right now. And that's not just a question exclusive to Oklahoma either.
Yeah.
I don't know who can cover that guy right now.
Nobody.
Yeah, so I'm with y'all on oh my gosh, Kenai Walker. I kid
He is excellent when the field is condensed.
is it in
When
zone? He's awesome in
Yes.
zone coverage.
Yeah. When the field is condensed and he doesn't have a ton of open space to have to worry
When
about.
he actually has to be
Yeah.
like worry about speed.
Correct.
Yeah, you get him in
Yes.
space, it's over,
he is-
and not in a
I
good way.
feel sorry for him
Yeah.
because he's not very fast.
Right.
But he has such a big frame and a body.
Right.
But then you got Des Malone over there that also hasn't been the last 3 weeks. If it's a jump ball, he just doesn't turn his head. I don't know what it is. He was doing it to start the year, and then all of a sudden now he's not. Eli Bowen's your best cover corner.
Yeah, well, and I was having a conniption in the third quarter of that football game, and I'm sure you guys were kind of in the same headspace because we hadn't seen Jacoby Johnson at wide receiver.
Yeah, what?
We didn't see him. Yeah, we didn't see him at wide receiver, which is fine. I mean, they got it done, right? They got it done.
They got to use him at corner.
While the Sooners are absolutely floundering to find an answer at cornerback, you have Jacoby Johnson sitting there, and he hasn't done a thing, has not touched the field for a single snap except on special teams.
Man without a home.
Yeah, and I mean they had Cade McIntyre switch numbers, so clearly they came in with the impression that Jacoby could play wide receiver today.
Yeah.
But they didn't use him.
Did anybody else see? I know Carry-On. I think Carry-On started the game. Their first series, the first play, he was out there for that.
Was he really?
I believe so.
Yeah.
He was in the very first play.
Yeah.
Was he?
Yes.
I thought I saw 82 out there.
Yep.
Okay. But outside of what are the freshmen outside of Raggins?
Kearney was out there.
How many times did
Kern?
play? I didn't see
very, very little after the first couple of drives.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
would
didn't
say if he
see
got
him.
10, 12 snaps, that's probably about
I didn't
accurate.
see him in the second half. That's what I was about to ask. Like, I didn't see him in the second half.
Well, in most of their wide sets out of shotgun, they had two tight ends, like one
They
in the
did.
slot. It was
They had Cade McIntyre or
Sharp or Roberts.
yeah.
Yep.
Cade played more than I thought he was going to.
He played quite a bit, and
Yeah.
he's still got a little bit of a more slender build for a tight end, so he's kind of stuck somewhere in between tight end and wide receiver. So he's perfect if you want to go two tight ends on the field, but have one of those guys split out wide, because that's kind of where he belongs right now, is in the slot.
Yeah.
So yeah, gosh, man, it's just not a pretty picture as far as the pass catchers go right now. And that was kind of emphasized today. The big play to JJ Hester kind of masked it and ensured that
Well, he
it
had
wasn't.
two big plays.
Yeah, he did have two big plays. The other one that went
Both
for
late too.
20 yards that set Oklahoma up for what would ultimately be a field goal.
And he showed some ability to make people miss,
Yes.
break tackles.
Mhm.
Like there was a lot of athleticism there. That right there is what Oklahoma's been missing, is that type of play. And if Hawkins can get any sort of rapport with Hester while the other guys are getting healthy, assuming they ever get healthy outside of Jalil Farouk, we'll see. I just I don't know. Like you're gonna have to rely on him, and he's gonna have to step up each and
Yeah.
every week.
I think what I would say, just to add on to piggyback on that, is it really feels as if Hawkins gets a wide receiver room, or at least some guys that are able to make separation. We saw today he's minimizing mistakes as far as putting the ball in harm's way. Like we're circling back to that right now, but he is taking what the defense allows, is allowing, and that's really what has been Oklahoma's Achilles heel up to this point. Now, again, the offense wasn't perfect. It wasn't. There were things obviously that need to be better. The running game needs to be better. It was improved today, over 4 yards a carry, which Auburn hasn't allowed that yet this year. But when you look at things from a whole, the ceiling on this team is going to be capped for as long as the wide receiver room is in the shape that it is right now.
Yeah, you need Jalil Farouk back.
You
need him back in a bad
You
way.
need Dylan Gabriel, according to Sam Humphries.
That is neither here nor there.
You need guys that can create separation, because I think there's confidence there that Hawk's going to be able to.
And guys weren't creating separation today
not at
for
all.
much of that football game.
Nope.
Hawkins missed Brennan Thompson on a shot that could have connected. He obviously hit JJ Hester on the other one, but outside of those plays, man, that separation was hard to come by for those Sooner receivers. I thought Bauer Sharp played probably his best game of the year.
Yeah, I agree. Would have been even better.
Would have been even better.
Yeah.
If not for that offensive pass interference call on Jake Roberts. Man, and we saw the Sooners have glimpses of success, fleeting as they may have been, in the running game, which is more than we can say for any contest thus far in the season up to this point.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I'm excited about, we saw it against Tennessee a little bit more, some of the two-back situations. And once you get a guy like Tatum healthy again, I think that's going to be something you see. We saw, and I'll let Brandon take this, because I know this was a conversation we had earlier. There was, I believe, one time that Gavin Sawchuk got a carry, and I believe it went for 9 yards, and it was just again, it was fleeting, but you saw it. It was there. The opportunity was there.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just this group that we saw at offensive line, which was kind of a question mark coming in. We were all a little bit surprised with the group that was thrown out there. So maybe they're finding something there, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
I will refrain from talking much about it. I wasn't the only one up in the press box that was sitting there going. There were just times that Barnes just would get the ball and just run into a pile.
Yeah.
Like there would be holes and he just runs into a pile. I swear to God, sometimes he just has like a magnet for contact. It's just like, yep, I want to have contact. I'm going to run to where everybody's at. And every time they put Salchuk in, it was like they're passing the ball.
Yeah.
Like I knew they were passing the ball.
Yeah.
If it was 3rd and 2, they're passing the ball if Salchuk's in there.
Yeah.
And then the one time he gets it, he breaks it for like 11.
Yeah.
It gets called back naturally, but it was a holding call on the other side of the field, which that I can't stand when officials do that, by the way. Like that, the hold had nothing to do with the play. Like but I know they're breaking the rules. It's a rule. I get it. But it just, I would say if it happened in Oklahoma, I'm like, if you're going to call holding call and it costs the team that Oklahoma's playing to have it better have some sort of, you know,
Ramifications.
ramification from the play that just happened. If it's happening 30 yards across the field, I don't think anybody cares that the play's going the opposite direction, man. Like nobody, whatever, dude. But I'm glad you're really paying attention and doing your job.
Hey,
Um,
can we acknowledge a few individual performers that maybe have flown under the radar in the immediate aftermath of this game? Because obviously, our Mason Thomas's takeover at the end was very
mhm.
impressive. We're all going to remember the Kip Lewis pick six for a long, long time, and this was, in many ways, a confirmation of what we felt we saw last week with Michael Hawkins as far as him solidifying his grip on the QB1 role. But Robert Spears Jennings played another
So
excellent game.
I
Yes,
hope
he
we were going to
did.
bring him up.
Huge sack there on the
Yep.
final drive.
Yep.
Huge sack in
He
a
got
big moment.
saved by Kip, and he'll tell you that because he said it in the interview. He said, looked me square in the eye and said, "Bro, I told Kip thank you so much because I got burnt on that play." Is what he said. He goes, "My dude blitzed me, man," and he goes, "If he didn't do that, Auburn probably would have scored if they would have completed that pass." He goes, I slipped. I was screwed." So that again, I think goes into the Sooner Magic deal. I I I thought Ethan Downs played a good game. He caused a lot of the pocket to collapse
He's
today.
he's one of those guys where the things he does on the football field,
Doesn't show up on the
it
stat.
does not show up on the stat sheet and it does not make the highlight reel. And so there are plenty of folks that are not going to give him a second thought.
Nope.
Yeah.
But
He was awesome
he
today.
impacts the game.
Yep.
Yes.
Week in, week out, he
Yep.
impacts the game. And Zach Schmidt, man,
Yeah, give
2 for 2.
flowers. Yeah.
Well done, Zach
Excellent.
Schmidt. And as Venables pointed out in postgame, that second field goal was crucial
Yes, it
because
was.
it meant Auburn needed a touchdown
Yep.
at the end. And that was a tall task for a Peyton Thorne offense. You go the length of the field, 75 yards in 54 seconds with no timeouts. That just wasn't happening.
Yeah.
Well, that you compound that fact that you just said with the fact that Venables and Zach Alley's defense they were fantastic in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
They got the rhythm, and Venables talked about it in the postgame presser. He said he felt like things started to really, move, and they felt like they were in a flow defensively, and that changed the ball game
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of ways for Oklahoma.
Yeah. Yeah. And R. Mason Thomas kind of in his interview, he kind of talked about the situation, like just how situationally what's the difference? Like why in the fourth quarter? The question was why in the fourth quarter do you just all of a sudden become a man child out of nowhere? And the answer is, well, we knew what they were going to do.
Yeah.
Like at that point, Auburn was in a position where they had to throw the football. And I think that just goes to show you when Oklahoma is able to make an offense one-dimensional or get them into those passing down situations, this incredible edge rusher that we've heard about for the last 3 off seasons, he shows up, and he shows up in a big way. I mean,
Yeah.
this game and against Tulane in that fourth quarter when everything was on the line, I mean, he's just been absolutely incredible, and that's really what Oklahoma's lacked the last couple of years is somebody that can get after the quarterback. So I think I would say you kind of nailed it there on those guys with the individual performances and Zach Schmidt for all of the issues, for all of the talk from the fan base, everything that we saw last year with his issues, for him to come on the road, the loudest environment that he's been. I mean, I know Oklahoma, Texas is loud in one end of the stadium, but there were times in Auburn, like absolutely one of the loudest environments I've ever been in. And for him to nail both of those kicks without much question, neither one of them were in any danger of not going through the uprights. That was big, and it was the difference in the game.
You want to know something I thought during the game, and maybe I'm crazy. I just want y'all's take on
Probably.
this.
But go ahead.
Who is the best pass rusher as far as the defensive tackles go?
Defensive tackle.
Grayson Halton.
BV says otherwise, but
Young guy?
it's a young guy.
You're gonna say David Stone?
BV said it. I don't have
I
to
mean,
say it. Like he's the one that named it.
He did-
So why well, he played some, but why on third down? Why would you not bring him in like 3rd and 7? Why would you not bring him in? Because he does cause havoc every
Yeah.
time he's in there.
I-
I know
did.
you all noticed that,
Yes.
right?
Well, and I also saw David Stone do something today that I didn't think was possible for somebody at his size, and maybe you guys caught it too. He was trying to go for a field goal block.
Not the first time he's done that.
He
No.
he just jumped, but just to see him, and I bet that just is part of what Magoo's issue was. But
Seeing
yeah,
big zero.
yes, he
Most Magoos just can't see, period. So I'm sorry. These
yeah,
are just too easy jokes. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
no, he yeah, no, I saw it a couple of times, but I was impressed with Grayson Halton as well. But yeah, I agree with you. That's somebody from the interior that is impressive.
Do the jokes write themselves when Magoo misses field goals?
Yeah, when he magoofed.
Well, have you ever seen the cartoon Mr. Magoo, the blind guy?
Yeah,
Back in the Parker, do you know what we're talking about?
I know what you're talking about. I've never seen the cartoon.
Yeah, you're too young. I like the jokes write themselves. Like he missed 2 of them. Your last name is Magoo, dude. It's almost like they had to have the little thing up there going, cling. Sorry.
Oh, apologies to anybody that might have just had their eardrums blown out.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh man.
That was uncalled for, and I'm
Uh,
sorry.
I tell you, man, if trying to get things back on track here.
Good luck.
If Michael Hawkins didn't win over that locker room and that fan base with the first helicopter act, I would say he definitely did it with the second helicopter act. Are you guys going to be able to continue?
I'm
You guys going to be able to keep it
I'm
together?
thinking about the clinging tomorrow.
good.
I'm
I'm good.
Okay.
No, we asked Barnes, we asked Javante Barnes about that after the game. He said, "Well, first off, that's my boy. I kind of wish he would quit doing that because the guy doesn't need to be taking hits like that."
Yeah.
Sure.
But Hawkins after the game it pulled the guys aside and just first congratulated him on the win, which is, can I just say, as a true freshman, like just
Mhm.
thinking about that is pretty freaking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But on top of that, he just reiterated there's a reason why I play the way that I do. Like there's a reason for that. I'm putting my body on the line for you guys on every play. Like that's I just and I love the camaraderie that we're starting to see within the team around him, like that confidence kind of building around him, and I know I know that those are plays where they'd like for him to get down and slide a little bit more. I just don't think that's who he is.
No, it's not. I mean,
it's
well, and I think it means a little bit more. And obviously, I saw a ton of this kid in high school, watched him on so many occasions, probably close to a dozen games of his over his high school career. He's never played with the type of fire in that sense, like in the sense that he's going to go up top and helicopter for a 2-point convert. Like I've never seen that from Michael Hawkins before. And I think that's because, guys, it's about his teammates. It's also about the name on the front.
Yeah.
Being an Oklahoma Sooner means something to this kid.
Yeah.
You all saw the picture that his dad tweeted out earlier tonight, where he's probably, 7, 8 years old, wearing an OUT shirt, pointing to the logo on his chest. Man, this kid is fired up to put on that uniform every single time he goes out there, and it shows in the way he plays.
I talked to somebody before the game, and I think you all know where I'm going with this. this person, we were conversing, and this person's around Hawkins every day. And I asked him, I said, what did you think? Did you get a little nervous whenever he jumped up in the air and did the helicopter thing and against Tennessee? And he said, no, I loved it. And I said, you weren't worried about him getting hurt? He goes, that's part of football, so you just can't worry about it. I mean, it's in your mind, but you can't worry about it.
Mm.
He said, but one thing that did, he goes, is it sold me and it sold the team. And everybody at that point knew that he was the one that was going to risk his body for the team to go win. And everybody was behind him at that point.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't a split. Like there may have been a split at that point, like Arnold, Hawkins a little bit with the team, because when you go through fall camp, and we talked about this on the instant analysis, right? Like I quoted Saban during game day
Mhm.
earlier today, where he said the team knows who the quarterback should be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with Oklahoma, there were guys that felt like it should have been Arnold. There were guys that felt like it should have been Hawkins. I think at that point in time,
Yeah.
everybody knew it was Hawkins.
Everybody knew. Yep.
Everybody knew it was
And
Hawkins.
at risk of being overly reductive, because yes, the defense has played exceptionally well and you would expect it to the rest of the year. But Hawkins is what's going to enable this team to have a chance against Texas.
Yeah.
And to come out fired up against the Longhorns and to legit believe that they can go win that football game.
Yeah.
Because as we saw today with that 48-yard touchdown run, he's electric. You give him a crease, he can take it to the house with his legs. As we saw on the bomb to JJ Hester, man, he can step into a throw every now and then and give you a highlight reel play with his arm.
Yeah.
And it's the way that he's galvanized this team.
Right.
I think he's got a very Jalen Hurts style of leadership in that it's subdued, it's lead by example, it's not showy, it's not flashy, but he's in control.
Yeah.
And this stood out, Ryan. I know to both you and I being down there at field level, experiencing firsthand how loud it was throughout that game. He was in control.
Yeah.
Start to finish, never lost his poise.
I don't know if it checks out as well on the broadcast as it did at field level. I can't even count. I can't even remember how many times where Hawkins was having to make sure everybody on the offensive line was in the same picture, was everybody was on the same page. And for him to have control of the situation, and even where they had to make a change and he was telling the offensive line, like, hold up, like he was in control the whole time.
Kill.
And for him to be able to do that again, true freshman, man, like first start on the road. And I was really impressed with the fact that those starting five, those offensive linemen, like however they worked things out this week with the cadence, I don't think we had an offensive lineman for a false start today. I don't think we had. I don't think, if I remember correctly,
had one on a running back,
Yep.
one on a receiver,
Yep.
I think one on a tight end.
But the
Yeah.
communication
Right,
between the
There was
quarterback
an
and the
offense,
offensive line, there was none. And to me, that
was there wasn't even a penalty on the offensive line
I
today. 'Cause
not
I thought the holding calls
was on a
were
tight end.
tight end
Yeah.
down the field.
Yeah.
And the block in the back on Petaway.
Yeah. I mean,
Pretty clean game for the
honestly,
offensive
yeah,
line.
and I really honestly believe a lot of that has to do with everybody being on the same page and the fact that he made sure. And sometimes it did bring the play clock down pretty close to being an issue, but he made sure everybody was on the same page. To me, that speaks volumes as to how cerebral this kid is already at his age.
He does not look like a true freshman.
Not at all.
And I'm not talking about the physical, right? Because, I mean, you see him make a throw like that. You see him take off and run the way that he did today, scrambling 48 yards to the house. That's great. right? But there have been true freshmen before, and there will be true freshmen again. There probably are true freshmen right now, like a DJ Lagway, that can make those types of plays. I don't know how many true freshmen can conduct themselves for 60 minutes in that environment at the controls of an offense that is down so much skill position talent, facing such difficult circumstances, and to maintain that composure, start to finish, never waver, never blink, keep everybody on the same page, keep everybody together, even in the face of adversity. That's not stuff you expect from a true freshman.
No.
If you're in that situation, Brian, you expect somebody else on the offense
Right.
to be the one keeping it all together,
Yeah.
not your true freshman quarterback.
Yeah, and that's I honestly believe that's where this offense was lacking in the first couple of games or first few games. Not that Jackson Arnold isn't a great leader. I think he has excellent leadership intangibles, but there is something about this team right now on offense that feels as if they're they're going to take the opportunities that they have and make the most of it right now. Like and even when things weren't going well, you never felt like the ball was going to be put in harm's way. And
Yeah.
I think you kind of alluded to it a little bit there, and I just want to drive it home. The difference right now with this offense under Michael Hawkins and what it was under Jackson Arnold, the ceiling, uh, sure, maybe Jackson Arnold is a better pure passer. Like I think we could probably all agree that Jackson Arnold is a better pure passer. But between the ears right now, there's not a comparison. One guy right now is seeing things clearly and has full control of what's going on, and the other guy right now just he needs to take a step back and reassess.
Hey, we've made it through the entire podcast. I mean, I know we're getting close to the finish line here. We haven't made it all the way, but we've just about made it without any fire Seth Luttrell or fire Joe John Finley talk, which admittedly that kind of got shuffled to the back burner after the Sooners came back and won the
Right.
football game.
Yeah.
We have a bye week where we can address all of those concerns. I think we have much to break down over the bye week.
The bye week also comes at a perfect time.
Perfect.
Absolutely have to get some guys back healthy.
Taylor Tatum being one.
Yes.
Yep.
You start getting some of the skill talent back around Michael Hawkins. I think people will be pleasantly surprised about how quickly this offense kind of starts to find its groove.
Totally agree. I think injuries are what have been the the worst part about this whole thing. Everybody wants to blame Seth Luttrell for everything, but when personnel isn't the personnel that you think you're going to the season with, and you're down
It's
five of your like that,
it's a symbiotic relationship,
yeah,
right? Like
it's not realistic. Like nobody is going to have their top five receivers down and be like, yeah, I think the offense is going to flow just fine when we go out there to Jordan Hare and play Auburn on the road. Sounds great. All right, great. Let's go do that then.
well, and how much better does that offense play today if you have something as simple as
Jalil Farouk.
two wide receivers on the field who can separate consistently,
Yeah. I mean,
which they didn't have today.
Well, Hester separated the whole day. He got missed a couple of times down the field, but he's hit. I mean, I thought Brennan Thompson did a good job.
Brennan had moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but look no further than the athletes that Auburn had at wide receiver. Like that was the difference in the
that
game
is
in a
the
lot of
difference.
ways.
Yep.
And I think in today's game, having difference makers at wide receiver, that really honestly wins you and loses you some games. And Oklahoma right now, their top five guys are down, but they're making it work. And I think as you get those guys back, the ceiling obviously elevates.
You want to do the MVPs and close this bad boy out?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
I'm once again going to rule that we have the freedom to agree on an offensive MVP because there's one candidate. I mean, there are multiple candidates, but there's one very clear answer.
Yeah.
Michael Hawkins was your offensive MVP. He's the guy that kept it humming today. He's a guy that gave you a chance and ultimately made the plays that needed to be made in order to win you a football game. Defensively, Brandon, I'll let you start.
Oh, I mean, I think it's pretty unanimous. Is it not?
No,
I know.
no, that's the point.
I know that R. Mason Thomas
Go ahead,
played
take
really
whoever you
good,
want to take. Just take
but
whoever you
I'm
want to
gonna go
take.
ahead and
Talk about
read.
that guy.
I'm gonna read Kip Lewis's stat line today, and you all tell me if this isn't just a dead giveaway guy. Okay.
Gotcha.
So he is tied for second in tackles, tied for third, excuse me, in total tackles with 5. He has a TFL, and he also had an interception that essentially flipped the ball game
Mm-hmm.
on its head. So I'm gonna go with Kip Lewis and his. I'm gonna go with from here on out. He shall be donned. Kip 6.
Dubbed Kip
Dubbed.
6.
Like it.
Kip
I
6.
like it.
Brian?
Well, since Kip 6 has been taken,
Just go ahead and do
I'm
it.
going. Yeah, I'm going R. Mason Thomas. The guy, he slammed the door. He helped slam the door on this game, and continues to be a difference maker on the edge. Um, yeah, that's pretty easy for me.
Okay. Well, I'll take the only other guy that makes sense as a possibility, and that would be Robert Spears Jennings.
Yeah.
Again, said it earlier. Big sack. He's just flown all over the field through 5 games. I mean, he's been everywhere, making plays that you expect a linebacker to make.
Mm-hmm.
Coming down from that safety spot to be a major force in run support.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they kind of all got to clean up some things in the back end, the secondary. There hasn't been anybody in the secondary that I think has really blown me away with their play because not even RSJ has been immune from mistakes so far. Peyton Bowen got beat down the field by Cam Coleman today. I have been really impressed with little Bowen, Eli, going back to that. Like, I would not be opposed to him starting against Texas.
Yeah.
In fact, I think that's probably the best thing for this team if Eli Bowen finds his way into the starting lineup sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just do honorable mention JJ Hester on offense. Just
I was going to do it
just,
if you didn't.
Yeah, honorable mention.
For him to step up in the situation, big time.
They needed him. They needed
he
somebody today, and JJ Hester was the guy that stepped up.
All right, that's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners postgame podcast. Once again, Oklahoma wins their very first SEC game, and it happened to be on the road at Jordan-Hare, 27-21. If you're not a member of OU Insider, go to ouinsider.com. You can sign up right now for $9.95 a month or $99.95 for the whole year. If you're a college student, $11.95 for a whole year. If you email us at ouinsider@rivals.com from a .edu, we will get back to you very quickly and get you on with us for a whole year. We will give you a promo code. You go put that in. Bam, you get us for a whole year for less than $1 a month. It's one-time payment, $11.95. Doesn't matter what college you go to. You have a .edu. You email us. Bam, ouinsider@rivals.com. We email back to you, and you are now going to be able to be on with us at OU Insider VIP for a whole year for $11.95. Hey, Oklahoma City people, Edmond, all the people that got just massacred by that hail the other day, we have a buddy of ours at E2 Roof Company. You can call them E2 Roof Company 918-212-4944. They will come out. They will give you the works. They will treat you correctly. They will do everything. They will fix your roof right here, right now. Just tell them OU Insider, the guys at OU Insider sent you, and the Under the Visor podcast sent you. Doesn't matter. You tell them that's the referral. E2 Roofing Company, 918-212-4944. They will hook you up. They will hook you up in a big way. Again, we know that you guys got hit with roof damage. It was awful. There's a lot out there. If your home was hit, make sure you call E2 Roof Company, 918-212-4944. They are licensed and insured, and they will hook you up. Just make sure you tell them the Under Visor OU Insider Clan sent you to them. All right. For Parker Thune, for Brian Clinton, my name is Brandon Drum. Again, OU 21, Auburn, or OU 27, Auburn 21. Oklahoma now 1-1 in the SEC. Bye week, Red River rivalry up next. You all have a blessed night.